understanding is not the same. I was wondering about this.
Thinking can think about anything, but thinking about what is there as the truth of it is not always there. For example, right now, thinking about that which is seen through what doorway, unknown. What is the thought about it? Unknown. See, actually at that moment, there is that which sees for sure, and there is that which is seen, only that at that very moment. And when there is no word of thinking about what is seen as something, it's nothing in it, right? Now, at moment of seeing now, is there anything in it or that which is seen? No thought about it either. Just study what is true in life from moment to moment to understand it actually with a thought of that which is now appearing to be understood as it is. For example, seeing sees, that is the truth. And thinking about that which is seen, that is the truth too. But what about people and things? Are they seeing right now? Impossible. Only that which is seen. Just talk about the absolute truth to understand a moment of experiencing an object which is no one at all. Before everything can appear as just a reality. Hardness is a reality. Visible object is a reality. Seeing is a reality. That's all in life. To begin to understand the difference between the world of truth right now. What appears is so true, but it does not appear as it is. When there is thinking about the nimitta of what is there as something all the time, from moment to moment, all the time, thinking about that which appears as something. In truth, it cannot be anything. Can it be known right now? To know what is true right now. Visible object is true. Seeing is true. Thinking about shape and form is true. Take it for something is true. But in truth, it's not always there. Just at moment when it appears so very rapidly and then gone, unknowingly in life. Just follow one another as story and things, events. That's all in life. But if we study just one reality right now, so close right now, here, there can be a moment of beginning to understand the truth of it as what is touched is only hardness and then gone. At moment of seeing, it's not there anymore. Is it so true that one day it can be object of right understanding directly as it is? That's why we keep on talking about the truth of this moment. What is there? So many things before, but now many realities in a day. When there's the understanding of each reality as it is, when it's there. For example, hardness is there as hardness. No one there at all, no thing there at all, only hardness is there, experienced in a moment by that which experienced it and then gone, both of them. The experiencing and the hardness of it, and then the next moment, experience the other object instantly and then gone. And it's there in life from moment to moment, so true. But no thought about it, no understanding it as it is just hardness, sound, smell, or just what is that? So brief, so short, and then gone, never to be found again. In samsara, just understanding, and then understanding develops little by little from hearing again and again and again, learning about each reality as it is in truth, to know when it's there as it's so true, that it's only hardness, it's only smell, it's only seeing, it's only thinking, arising and then falling away instantly, all the time, very shortly, from moment to moment. If there is no understanding of the truth, it's impossible to see the danger of life. The danger is the impermanence of what is there. No one can make it last at all. It's so dangerous in case that it conditions attachment so deeply to what is there as something permanent. I, from morning up to now, very permanent. I see, I hear, I think, but in truth, no I at all. If there's no absolute realities, can there be anything or anyone or any world? And life is so short to study the truth. It's only when we discuss on the truth of it, day by day, moment to moment, reading, considering the truth is there all the time, changing from moment to moment. Is it true? That's all. Just have more confidence of the truth and let right understanding develops in its own way. Each has different accumulation. So the way of the development of right understanding of each one is different by the object which is experienced. No rule at all. Otherwise, who set the rule? Impossible. Just understanding the subtlety of reality, that it takes quite a long time to begin to understand it firmer, a little firmer, little by little, until it's so firm. What is there can be known gradually in life by conditions, and right understanding is a chief support for all kinds of barami. Otherwise, it's impossible to be truthful to the truth, to be patient enough to understand the truth. Very, very short moment of understanding, but it is the way it develops. Just having the understanding of the truth, have more confidence, and it works its way, for sure. Unshakable. It has to be the moment of understanding the truth right now of what is there. What is there in life, any moment, it doesn't matter. It's there as it's so true. it can be understood no matter what. When there is the understanding of a characteristic as it is. Seeing cannot be anything else at all. Hearing cannot be anything else. It's time just to consider the truth when we are together talking about realities right now. Before hearing the teachings, can anyone know what is so true right now? What is the truth of this moment? What is the absolute truth of what is there seen? For example,
and Nina, you asked about thinking. Thinking is all the moments of consciousness that are apart from the sense door experiences. And of course, Bhavanga Citta, which is unknown, but in terms of what appears in a day, it's all thinking. So the thinking is the norm of the daily experience. Whereas intellectual understanding are moments of thinking that are accompanied by panya.
It's different. Yeah.
Well, even the moments with understanding can be fall under the general definition of or idea of thinking, in the sense that they're mind door activity, not sense door activity.
Not sensory. Yeah.
So the moment of thinking about people and things could also be accompanied by panya, or be the object of understanding. It can be any moment of when there is when understanding arises. It's another moment of thinking in the general sense of that word, but accompanied by understanding. So that's the difference, the moments with understanding and without understanding.
Ajahn often says, consider the truth, consider. But there may not be conditions at all. It depends on conditions and on panya too, because usually life goes on, and there's no considering, only thinking about sense objects and things we like or things we dislike. And considering is very far away.
Well, yes, much of the time it is, but there can also be considering that one is not actually consciously aware of. There can be considering happening at a low level, just as there can be a kusala at a very low level that is not apparent. And it seems to me that there is more considering in a day than one really realizes. If there's an interest in the Dhamma and there has been recent exchange like this, I think that's one of the great benefits of having discussion about
That's
the Dhamma.
what I think, yeah. The discussions we have here are good opportunities for considering. But without it, I'm not sure.
The discussions that we have here can condition thinking at at other times in between discussions. And
Yeah.
even as I say, when we are, our main attention is on something else, there can be thinking happening in the background, as it were. So we should not expect or want the thinking to be necessarily too prominent or too frequent. It happens only by conditions.
Yes.
And I think Ajahn, she doesn't tell us we must consider, but she explains the benefits of considering and the importance of considering what has been heard, but it has to happen naturally.
There is considering right now, but if we don't talk about it, who knows that it is considering? There is whatever is there from the book or in the book talking about it. If there's no word about it, even it's there, it's not known as what. For example, considering. Every moment is there. What is seen before there can be knowing about it. It's a level of considering, of thinking. We use the word thinking, no matter by way of considering or liking or planning or whatever. It is there considering. For example, there is seeing. Without considering, can there be the understanding of the difference between the rose and the pen? See? It's there all the time. But if we don't use the term for it to be known, that it's the unknown. Who knows that it's now that is considering? That's why what is there in life in a moment, each moment is so rare, but nobody knows until it's taught by the enlightened one. What is there as it is, so very subtle, like sense door, eyes, ears, nose, tongue. Who knows what is there without thinking? And there's considering too in a day. But when we don't think in words, in terms, what is there, it doesn't appear because it arises and falls away in split seconds. But they work like they were conditioned to arise, to be different, characteristic, unknown. But when it's stronger enough, it appears we think I'm considering, which means it is thinking about that as much as one think or as much as one can know. Will you go? Say, consider before, say yes or no. It's the unknown. But what is there is not seeing. At moment of considering is not seeing. Or are there in life until beginning to understand what is there in details, like Phassa, Vitakka, Manasikara. They're all there all the time, but who knows? Never know at all. If there's no word about it to talk about each characteristic as it is different, like attachment is not aversion, but there is aversion in a day, and there is attachment in a day all the time. Without the terms, without thinking about it, it is considering too in a day. That's why what are there in the book? Just tell about what is really there from moment to moment to be known as it is, no one and no thing at all. Only different realities, conditioned, arising and falling away in split seconds. What is left is only the nimitta of what is there, which is taken as something, like seeing, nimitta of seeing, not just one moment of seeing. So considering in a day a lot, but it's not known. Because if we don't talk about it, who knows? I'm thinking, and it is considering. Here in the news, is there any considering whether is it right or what is that in truth and so on. But when it shows up a little, there can be different words for it, but it cannot be beyond the six ways to be understood as no matter what thinking is about, considering or planning or whatever. It's just what the way, because the seeing cannot have any idea at all. It just sees, hears, smell, taste, and touch. That's all. But thinking about that which appears and consider whether I do or I don't do, I will not do at all, something like that. It seems like it's there as what we can understand, that we use the word consider or considering to be known as what is there as consider. But in truth, it's there. No matter what in the book, it's there now to be a little understanding of what is there, beginning to see and understand. Even Pasha see, it's there, but who knows when it's there? Because seeing is there already, but without Pasha, Cetasika, can it see? Can it experience that which is touched by Pasha? And so on. Just understand what life is. When that, before that, no understanding of what life is at all. But what is life? Without that which experiences an object, can there be any life? And what life is? The experiencing of whatever is there. And so many things, like while one is asleep, is there the reality which experiences an object, but not the object of the six ways. So it's not the object of this world. That's why the object while one is asleep cannot be known at all. That's all in life, to understand what is that was taken for people and things all the time, or I all the time. In truth, no one, nothing at all. Only different realities conditioned to arise to perform its function and then gone instant, never to return. No one can stop the rapidity of the arising and falling by conditions. That's why beginning to understand the truth of life, of what is used in terms of different words, different realities. Pasha is not vitaka, it's not vanasikara. It's there now, each moment, unknown to be known, that actually there is no one, no thing. Nothing arises, no world at all. Whatever arises is the world. It's now considering. See, if we don't talk about it, it's unknown.
So, Nina, I think that there is thinking, reflecting, considering all day, every day, after seeing, hearing, and so on. And it can be wholesome or unwholesome. When it's wholesome thinking or considering, it can be with or without panya, as we know. And even when it is with panya, it doesn't mean that it's pariyati understanding, because even before the Buddha's time, those who develop samatha, they know that metta is kusala, they know anger is unwholesome, they know what is calm, but it's not the understanding of reality as not self. So, for example, Ajahn was talking earlier about how whatever falls away is dangerous, because it can be the object of attachment. So people didn't appreciate that even great calmness is dangerous, because it falls away, it doesn't last, and it's the object of clinging. Even the great wisdom of the Buddha falls away and is dangerous and is the object of attachment for others. So in order to be pariyati understanding, it has to be the understanding of reality as not self from the very beginning. So this is the difference between pariyatti understanding and understanding which is not taught by the Buddha by way of the understanding of reality now. So thinking can be with or without understanding, with understanding of reality or without understanding of realities. So when we learn about pariyatti understanding from the very beginning, it has to be about this moment as not self. And this reminds me of the discussion that Maeve brought up at the end of last week about effort. And we can read suttas that make it seem like there are guidelines or someone developing effort. But we have to understand that when the Buddha talks about effort, he's talking about the reality, virya, not belonging to anyone at all, not anyone who can make an effort, because it's just the cetasika, which arises with almost every citta, apart from the rootless, most of the rootless cittas, with akusala cittas as well as kusala cittas, not anyone who makes it an effort, not anyone who can do anything. So this is the pariyatti understanding that begins to understand whatever appears now, no matter it's seeing or hearing or effort or anger, as a Dhamma, not self at all, different from the kind of thinking that occurred before we heard the Buddha's teachings.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It depends on understanding. Yeah.
It depends on understanding, and it depends on the kind of understanding.
Yes.
Maeve, we ran out of time a bit last week. Was there anything further you would like to discuss or ask Ajahn or anyone about effort and virya?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Jonathan and yourself for the email. I'm sorry I haven't got back to you. We're having lots of power outages, and life's a little bit complicated at the moment. But anyway, I appreciated your comments in the email, and in fact the sutta that you sent me was the one that I was referring to. And maybe just a couple of observations around, I use the word guidelines, I suppose because that's a conventional way of thinking about when we hear examples given of, I suppose, preferred behavior. It often seems like it's an example to be followed or explored, and you quite rightly say that that's not the deeper intention. And I appreciate, Jonathan, you pointing out that that the level of right effort that actually is referred to is of a very high order. However, I think in terms of how I'm considering right effort at the moment, it's in relation to how it actually forms the path, and particularly in relation to the middle way, because we know that the Buddha himself became very caught up in wrong effort, in the sense of the striving, when he became an ascetic and was on the point of starving himself to death, etc. And the realization that came after that there had to be something not as extreme as that. So I guess I'm what I'm reflecting on is that this issue of effort is it's something that is referred to quite in many different ways. And another example that I came across, and I found this rather helpful in terms of what Ajahn said at the end of the session last week, when you reminded me, Ajahn, of how important it is to consider the nature of virya, of effort. And what I came across was, and it's quite a short discourse, I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to perhaps read it. It's from the Samyutta Nikaya, the discourses between the Devas and the Buddha, and it's the very first one. Shall I just summarize it, or will I read it? What's appropriate?
Whichever you like, Maeve, is absolutely fine.
Okay, maybe I'll read it because it's I actually quite like the way it's written, and it's a conversation between a Deva as part of many conversations between Devas and the Buddha. So again, I suppose we can assume that there's a level of understanding, quite developed understanding, in terms of the entity who's asking the questions. But the question that the Deva asks the Buddha is, "How, dear sir, did you cross the flood?" And the Buddha answers, "By not halting, friend, and by not straining, I crossed the flood." "But how is it, dear sir, that by not halting and by not straining, you crossed the flood?" "When I came to a standstill, friend, then I sank. But when I struggled, then I got swept away. It is in this way, friend, that by not halting and by not straining, I crossed the flood." And the Deva was very satisfied with that answer. And I'd like to hear Ajahn's observation about that, because it seemed to be pointing to the nature of virya, and certainly that idea of the middle way seemed to be embedded in the Buddha's answer. So that's where these thoughts about virya are up to at the moment. So I welcome any comments or observations. Thank you.
What's the point of reading the Tipitaka or the Sutta, the talk between Buddha and the Deva? Not to follow the word, but to understand the truth, explained in many manners, different aspects, different ways. For example, middle path. We try not to go left or right, to follow the middle, but without right understanding. Can there be the middle? Not go a little right or a little wrong, left or right. That's right. Even reading about the Buddha's life before his enlightenment, didn't he have attachment at all?
I'm
But
sorry.
Panya understand the truth understand his life is different from us, from anyone at all. So the way he understood the truth much more than anyone in the world. And can it condition such effort beyond anyone to try so hard as he would be Buddha, different from the others, even didn't eat anything at all for days and for, as it said in Tipitaka. But what about the right understanding of trying so hard, harder than the other at all? But there can be the understanding at the end, because no matter who can do like him, or just think that he can do like him, but in truth, no one can do like that at all. That is the example of no matter what way, even with right understanding accumulated to become the unenlightened one. But as long as lopa, attachment, and ignorance is still there, it can condition usla in different way, not pure or perfect without any attachment at all. That's why the idea of I try so hard, harder than anyone else in the world, can be there with begin to develop right understanding of what is there. And even at that moment, it's was there no panya, or it's there by conditions. Who knows? That's why consider every word, the truth of it, the deep truth. For example, middle path without right understanding. Can it be left or right? Not middle at all. To try very hard, or it's conditioned. So just let it be conditioned and so on. Depends on different accumulation to think this way or that way. But it has to be right understanding to understand what is there as a truth. For example, right now, we understand that all depends on conditions. Shall there be trying of effort, but not as I, but hearing, considering, reading, considering the truth by conditions when it's there. Not try so hard for today, for this word, and on and on. It's all by attachment, ignorance, because who can rush to have such level of understanding of everything and every word? It's there for those who have it and consider it and understanding it little by little, deeper and deeper. That's why even right now, what about who will become Sotapanna, or who will attain enlightenment, or who will have vipassana of that degree and that degree? It's just nonsense, because it's only thinking without any understanding of what is there now. That's why we can understand how deep it is. Even it's that degree of vipassana jnana not strong enough, as long as it's not naturally understand whatever is there, not just only one, but more and more and more and more until it's there so natural. And that is the way, the path, not the middle path, see, not left or right. So it depends on understanding the truth and the path, the subtle path, to understand now so natural as it's appearing right now. The idea to take it as a little more or a little strong and so on. Just that so fast, and understanding is strong enough to understand it. At that moment, it's not moment of level of seeing the danger of life, of the arising and falling away yet, because before it can appear as it is, it has to be panya of what is there now, to the degree that it's not just only the patipati, but it has to be pativeda too. And what is pativeda? The first stage, just experience that which hasn't been experienced before, according to the indriya of the Sotapanna. the first one, not the second and the third one. See, that's why just understanding that not right, not left or right, but the middle way. And that be the middle way, understanding the truth. No one can rush, no one can try so hard, no one can be so lazy, not to read, not to discuss, not to think over it, not to consider it. It's impossible. Not just to follow, but to understand. The truth, it's understand it, not to try to find whether this is right or this is left. What is the middle?
Ajahn,
That's how deep it is, how subtle it is.
of course, because it's such deep wisdom that it is extremely subtle. And yet, when you say to be truthful to the truth, even though that understanding may be really beyond beyond us, there, just hearing the words, just hearing the teachings, if it seems that there is something worth listening to and considering, it seems as if there is some kind of unknown understanding that is in response to encountering the teachings, which it's like it hasn't come to, it hasn't ripened, it hasn't come to fruition, but even in the beginning, those words of great subtlety must surely have some bearing on our present understanding, even though it may be very, very, very small. If we just think, oh, that is so far away, that is so so subtle and so remote, I'm not sure how we actually come to understand what is.
As I consider each word, whether it can be true or it's impossible, it's not like that. That's why even just right now, Dhamma, only the word Dhamma, not I, not anything, not anyone. It's a reality. Consider each word in the beginning, begin again and again and again and again. Otherwise, there cannot be further understanding of the truth of what Buddha taught right now about what is there is conditioned to arise and fall away instantly. To consider, not to believe, to learn to understand that which experiences just only the word, that which experiences no shape, no form, no smell, no thing at all. And when it appears, it has to be no thing, no smell, no taste, no touch. It's only the moment of experiencing to be known that this is the characteristic or the quality of that which arises, no rupa at all, only the reality which experiences to be known as it's no one at all, it's there. Otherwise, even right now, when it experiences the object which is seen, we can see that there must be a reality which experiences it. And at the moment when sound appears, there can be the idea of the understanding of there must be a reality which experiences sound. Otherwise, some cannot appear at all. Beginning to see the subtlety of what is there, hidden all the time, unknown all the time. We talk about Nama, the reality, which experiences an object at level of intellectual understanding. That's why the intellectual understanding has to be so very firm, unchangeable at all. Otherwise, left or right, not middle. Just understand one word at a time to have more confidence of the truth, so it can be enrooted deeper and deeper to know that it's there. And by conditions, when the condition is ready, it's there. Be aware of an object as usual, hardness, cold, or whatever is there. It hasn't been known before, though not object of awareness before, not understanding truth at all before, but beginning little by little to understand. No one, no me, this is the most important. Otherwise, how can the idea, the attachment to the idea of self can be absolutely, ultimately eradicated, never to arise again? It has to be now when it has attained or reached that degree, eradication of ignorance and attachment to what is there as thing or a person or me or I. It's not just the word, it's so true. But it has to be the intellectual understanding, to be patient, see, and has to be virya, to read it again, over it again, and then what next is by condition, doing something, laughing, happy feeling, and so on, by condition, so natural. And that has to be understood or realized or penetrate. Otherwise, the I, which is so very deep, cannot be eradicated at all. Eradication of the idea of self is not easy at all because it has been accumulated how long ago? Uncountable. And it's panya, which you just talked about. It's very deep. And that is right understanding, which can develop to understand. Without this level of understanding, it cannot let go of the idea of self. So what really let go? Understanding, stage by stage. From hearing, considering, even intellectually, but it's so firm. It doesn't matter because it's so real. Without a little understanding in a moment on and on, how can it be so great, so sharp to understand what is there now, naturally as it is? Before there can be the moment of being seen, the boredom of the arising and falling away of reality is no one at all. If one tries so hard, left or right, not the middle.
Yes, yes.
And this is the only way, the fourth noble truth, so very subtle. Who knows? Moment of understanding the truth so very deeply. That is the understanding to let go, I, of thing, and consider the truth. Does it now? The Tipitaka say, it does not appear well. So what is mean well? When they are together, nothing can appear well because they're together, arising and falling away so rapidly. But when there is attention and with understanding, aware of the truth of that reality, little by little, see how little it is. What is there as awareness with understanding, even it's not always there, once in a while, but it cannot be other thing. That's the meaning of parami, khanti parami, sattva parami, viriya parami, nekkhamma parami, adhidana parami. See, beginning to understand the meaning of what is meant by parami.
If I could just add one brief comment to what Ajahn has said so clearly, what I've found helpful is to appreciate that right effort is the effort that arises with right understanding. And that's the only time there's right effort of that level, of that. If we're talking about effort of the Eightfold Path, if we're talking in or other levels of kusala, then right effort is the effort that arises with any moment of kusala. But if we're talking about the actual development of insight, then that right effort is the effort that arises together with understanding.
May I ask one question?
And I just haven't quite finished yet, Haji. And if we keep that in mind, then we appreciate that any idea of effort to have understanding or to have kusala cannot be right, because it's only right when it's with understanding or with kusala. And I think that helps us to appreciate that it has to be conditioned to arise. It's not something to think of it in terms of having effort or making effort or whatever other idea one might have about it, but just it's synonymous with right understanding or other forms of other levels of kusala only.
And one extra comment on that I was going to make earlier is that, as you mentioned, it has to be with right understanding and the other right factors like awareness. And it's the awareness which guards from unwholesome states arising, the effort and the virya and the sati with understanding that guard and protect from unwholesomeness at those moments and condition the wholesomeness to develop. So it all comes back to right understanding as the forerunner, not any effort that is any doing or trying to make anything happen. It has to be the understanding which develops and the right effort that develops naturally with that understanding, which then performs the function of guarding and protecting from unwholesome states.
Yes, you guys already spoke what I want to speak, so thank you.
Also not concentration. If we speak about concentration, is also a kind of effort.
The concentration has a different function. It arises with every citta and it is one-pointed. It experiences one object only for the understanding and all the other ceitasikas to also experience at that moment. So there is concentration at every moment. So again, if we're talking about right concentration, it has to be the ekagata caitasika that arises with right understanding, not I concentrating or focusing or doing anything. Because otherwise, as Ajahn mentioned at the very end of last week, when it's I trying to make an effort or I trying to focus, then it will be silabata paramasa, the wrong practice for sure. So this is why we always emphasize the right understanding of reality that appears now and becoming more and more familiar, considering very carefully what is the reality at this moment. Because without the understanding of the reality that appears now as Dhamma, not self, there will not be any development of right effort, right concentration, right awareness, and other right factors. They have to develop with the understanding which leads in the development of the path.
Yes, but I know what you mean, Yotika, when you align concentration with effort, because in conventional terms, for there to be effort, there has to be concentration also. And so if one wants to make an effort conventionally, one concentrates on whatever is the target of the effort. But we have to appreciate that when we're talking about the mental factors that have these names, they have a particular meaning, and we should try and compartmentalize, if you like, when we're talking about the mental factor. We don't assume the conventional meaning of the term, so we have to keep that in mind. And as Sarah explained, concentration has a different function to effort.
So I was not thinking about Ekagata, because that is also, Ekagata is one-pointedness that is already in the 7 first Chittasikas, I think.
Yes, so that's why, as I said, we have to appreciate, if we're talking about the mental factors, Ekagata Cetasika is also known as concentration.
Yeah, but
we
also
have to,
samadhi.
Sorry?
Also samadhi is also said as concentration. But it's true.
Right. So everything has a meaning, a specific meaning. Sometimes there are more than one term for the same meaning, and sometimes there are a number of terms that have slightly different meanings. And so samadhi is not quite the same as ekagata in meaning, but we're perhaps drifting away from Maeve's issue here, and Maeve may want to come back to that thread, and we'll pick up yours later.
I appreciate, Jonathan, what you said about the connection between right understanding and right effort, and I just reflecting on the sutta that I referred to, the conversation with the Dewa. I suppose what the Buddha's answer was a reflection of right understanding, wasn't it? And I suppose the danger is of trying to interpret that in some form of, what must be done, which was not but I think that the Dewa the Dewa's response to what the Buddha said seemed to further on in the sutta seemed to indicate that they had understood what that meaning was.
Yes, well, and we can say it's the same for all the factors of the Eightfold Path. They are all mental factors that arise together with right understanding. They are not representative of things that are to be developed separately on their own, and until such time as they come together. They are developed when understanding itself, awareness and understanding itself is developed. And so, in that sense, one doesn't need to concern oneself too much with effort or concentration or even with awareness, because if there's understanding, all those factors are there necessarily. And if there's a moment of kusala, of mundane kusala, shall we say, then those same factors are also there anyway. So when kusala is being developed, all those factors are also being developed. But what I just referred to as mundane kusala, although it supports the development of understanding, it doesn't lead to that. And understanding requires understanding itself to develop. So it's a matter of the reflection that conditions previously accumulated awareness and understanding to arise. And that's the importance of hearing the Dhamma and reflecting on it, considering it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Although I suppose there was just one other thought that that came in connection with this. I just don't want to disappear, and that is, even conventionally, I think we can observe in ourselves and in others how very counterproductive striving or making excessive effort can be, and it does seem that even though we make that distinction between conventional reality and the kind of absolute reality that we're talking about, there seems that there is some kind of a parity in terms of conditionality, I suppose, that the conventional conditions that surround excessive efforts are usually have negative consequences, or we would say unwholesome consequences. So there's that some sort of a reinforcement. Not that I don't want to dwell on that, but it's just like what's real ultimately is also real relatively. I guess that's
sometimes, but then conventionally we say practice makes perfect, and that certainly doesn't apply to the development of understanding.
No.
or any kind of kusala.
I wasn't going to venture there. Thank you, Jonathan.
I think there is a point that the kind of concentration and the kind of effort that there is some awareness of in daily life, like concentrating hard for an exam or making strong effort to bake a cake, most of this effort and concentration that there's any knowledge about is akusala effort and akusala concentration. So this may touch on what you were saying, because what is considered as making a strong effort or strongly concentrating is just for oneself. It's akusala, akusala most of the time. And just coming back to Jyotika's point, so as she said, Ekagata Cetasika arises with every citta at every moment of the day, and it can be kusala, it can be akusala, it can be vipaka, it can be kiriya. So as I just mentioned, most of the concentration we're aware of, like focusing so hard on something or an object or what we're doing, is almost all akusala concentration with attachment. So when samadhi is used, it's also ekagata cetasika. And the word samadhi is used in certain contexts, like when the concentration is stronger. So, for example, in the context of the path, sama samadhi is the right concentration that develops with right understanding, completely different from the wrong concentration when focusing on an object or focusing on a way of practice. This is the wrong Eightfold Path that the Buddha also talked about Micha Samadhi. So samadhi can be kusala or akusala, right or wrong, but it's ekagata cetasika, which arises at every moment in life.
Okay, I was thinking about concentration in the context of the balancing factors. So this is concentration with virya, with effort. So I thought, is it possible to have right concentration? After all.
So when right understanding develops, when the path develops with right understanding as the forerunner, the right understanding balances. So at those moments of right understanding of the truth, of the reality now, the right concentration, the right awareness, the right effort, all the rights are there together, balanced already by the understanding. So no one to do any balancing, no one to concentrate, no one to make an effort, no one to be aware. When there's any idea of I should balance or I should concentrate, it's all the wrong path at those moments. So
But
this is
still,
why, go on, yes, sorry.
But the Buddha was toch speaking about right concentration as a joke with right effort, I think.
And right understanding, like when we read about the development of Satipatthana, Sati Sampajanya, this is right awareness with right understanding and right effort, right concentration, but always with right understanding.
Nothing to do again.
Because no one to do anything. So like Ajahn was saying earlier, it has to come back every time. Whatever sutta we're reading, it's not about just following the words, but understanding the meaning that it's about. All dhammas are anatta. So whatever we read, it's about realities which are conditioned, not I that can do anything at all. Otherwise, each time there's the idea of I making an effort, or I concentrating, or I guarding from unwholesomeness. It's the wrong path again, leading further and further away from the right path.
Right path, right path is have to come with right understanding. Kusala without panya, although they are good, but they are not right path because it's not understanding the truth. Don't understand the truth, so it cannot be right. But doesn't mean that it's bad. Not in that.
Without understanding, how will it be known? How can there be any knowing whether the concentration is good or bad if there's no understanding? How can it be known whether the effort is good or bad if there's no understanding? Nothing is known at all. So there cannot be even the beginning of right considering, the beginning of right intellectual understanding that Nina was mentioning without understanding from the very start.
Is it then all this, the right understanding is the first factor of the path?
Yes, it's the first factor, and they say it's the forerunner, it's the leader, like sunrise is the start of the day, so the right understanding is the leader of the path. Just in this opposite way, the wrong understanding, the wrong idea that I can do something, I can focus, I can make an effort, is the leader of the wrong path.
So making this concentration with a white board or with a red color, it is not, I don't know. It is, I think it is very, very quick. It is something I do with a lot of...
What is the purpose? What is it for? Where is the understanding? Even if we're talking about the understanding of the development of samatha, there has to be the understanding of what is calm, what is kusala, what is akusala now, just focusing on a whiteboard. No understanding of any kind. It's just clinging with ignorance and wrong concentration, no value at all. Not even the understanding of what is calm or the big development of samatha. So what is most precious is the understanding right now of what appears as Dhamma, no matter it's kindness or annoyance or seeing or visible object or calmness. They're all conditioned realities. And as Ajahn said earlier, each one is dangerous because it falls away, but it can be the object of clinging. So the development of understanding begins to understand what appears without selection or wish or trying to focus on a particular object, because that's just the path of attachment and wrong understanding. And it's, as we say so often, it's such relief, no effort that needs to be made by I, no I to concentrate or focus or think about whiteboards or anything else, because the truth is right here and now. There can be understanding anytime without trying to do anything, very naturally. Not thinking or expecting when will it arise or how can I make it arise quicker, not looking for shortcuts, not focusing on any object at all.
But then again, akusala come, try, do, and all that. As soon as panya gone, all the lopa and moha, ignorance, come back surrounding us all the time.
And if the understanding isn't firm enough when one reads a sutta like the one Jonathan quoted to Maeve about the 4 right efforts, it will all be read with the idea of I doing something, if there isn't, or the one that Maeve read out, if there isn't the firm confidence and understanding that there are only dhammas that are conditioned, no matter whether we're talking about effort or concentration or understanding or awareness or anything else.
So this all is led by understanding.
Yes, and this is why we always talk so much about understanding. And for understanding to develop, there has to be more and more considering about the realities like effort. We think of a conventional kind of effort or concentration, but the effort is Viriya Cetasika, and Viriya Cetasika arises with every citta apart from 16 Ahetuka ones. So there's right and wrong effort, kusala and akusala, Viriya, even now while we're talking. It arises for a moment by conditions and then is gone. And as soon as there's an idea of I making an effort or I focusing, then it's akusala, Viriya, akusala, ekagata that is conditioned to arise at those moments. And that's why when we just talk about different situations, it's impossible to understand the realities, impossible to understand dhammas that are anatta. That's why we have to come back and talk in more detail about each one, like ekagata, cetasika, or viriya, or the strong viriya that is patience, the khanti. We have to talk about the actual realities. Otherwise, it's impossible to ever let go of the idea of self or I doing something.
But it means that it doesn't make so much sense to talk about these different qualities if there is not knowledge about no self.
Right, so that's why from the beginning we have to talk about what is Dhamma, what is a reality, and what is the distinction between those dhammas, those realities that can experience, and those dhammas that cannot experience. And then we have to talk in more detail about what is citta and what are different citta seekers, what are rupas, because without discussing step by step about different realities, then we just talk about, focusing on whiteboards or having calm, but no understanding from the beginning of what reality is at this moment.
That's very helpful.
Thanks, Jyotika. Always glad to hear your comments and questions, so appreciate it very much, and Maves as well.
Thank you.
Sarah, if you could go over again the four right efforts.
Four right efforts. Four right efforts, yeah.
So the four right efforts, the first one is for when the right effort arises with right understanding, it prevents the arising of unwholesome states at that moment. It means that at that moment of understanding with right effort, no akusala arises. It's prevented from arising at that moment. And it abandons the arising of unwholesome states that have already arisen, because at those moments, again, they don't arise. It maintains the wholesome states that have arisen at that moment. So the right effort arises with right understanding, and other wholesome states, they are maintained. And it conditions the arising of wholesome states that haven't yet arisen. So the right understanding with right effort and so on conditions wholesome states to arise in future. So I've just summarized, I haven't followed the exact words, but we can see that it is the right effort with the right understanding that leads to the abandoning of unwholesomeness and the conditioning of wholesome states. Not I that does anything, not I that tries not to have unwholesome states arising, or I that tries to have wholesome states, but it is the nature of right effort with right understanding and the other factors that this is what occurs.
What would be the fourth one? Because we have
Will develop.
the arising of unwholesome states. It maintains wholesome states. It conditions wholesome states to arise in the future. So what would be a fourth one?
Abandoning unwholesome.
Oh, also abandoning them.
Abandoning those unwholesome states that had arisen. So as soon as the right effort arises with right understanding, any unwholesome states that arose previously are gone at that time.
And these are called padana. Padana. P-A-D-H-A-N-A.
4 padanas.
Yeah, padana.
Padanas, yes.
Put the emphasis on the correct syllable.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we can see all the padanas develop together with right understanding right from the beginning. So even now, when it's just the right considering, the pariyatti understanding, not actually the path yet, but it is the beginning of the development of understanding with right effort that leads to the development of all the 4 padanas with the right understanding of the path.
And Betty, these are just different aspects of the one mental factor. They're not different mental factors.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Just
I know
different
that.
aspects. Yeah.
Okay.
Anna Chan, would you like to add anything on this topic? Thanachan, are you there?
Would you like to understand or to be acquainted with samadhi or ekakata cetasika now? Or just ignore it?
Jyotika, that might be a question for you.
I did not understand the question. I need.
Would you like to know more about ekagata cetasika or samadhi now?
Yes, very much. Because I'm thinking about the balancing factors and concentration is mentioned there.
Just a reality, one-pointedness, acetasika, ekakata cetasika, by word, or is it there now? And how can there be the understanding of it, to know it, to realize it as it's there, as it is, not other cetasika? That's why we have to understand what is there now. For example, ekakata arises with every citta, right? So it's there now. At moment of seeing, it's there ekakata. At moment of hearing, it's there ekakata. When we talk about just one reality at a time, in order to understand its nature, the more there is the understanding of the nature of it, the less attachment to it as something or I or self, less and less. This is the only way to have less attachment to whatever is there in life, not in words, but at moment of beginning to understand it. The moment of understanding it, there is the I there, which it takes it for I, ekakata, I have samadhi and so on. That's why, what is it? It is acetasika, one-pointedness. It arises with each citta, so that one citta can experience only one object because of ekakata is one-pointed on that object. So the citta cannot move away from it. And all cetasikas arising must have ekakata cetasika. That's why citta can experience only one object at a time. Is that true? A reality, each moment. But it does not appear as it is samadhi or concentration, because it is one-pointed on the object anytime when it's there. But the object changes all the time by conditions. So the ekakata does not appear as samadhi. But in the day, when we try so hard to get something done carefully, it's there. It begins to be known as samadhi, but not as right or wrong practice of development at all. Only it works its way at that very moment, more moments than the other moment. That's why it appears as it is moment of one-pointedness or concentrate or focus on an object. Very natural, it's there, unknown. But when we talk about it as different levels, like when we talk about the kusala, of what level? Samadhi, samatha, or vipassana. We talk about it as the factor, because if it's not perform its function as to be one-pointed on that object, can that object appear to panya or the cetasikas there to study it, to understand it just right now? It has to be now. At moment of listening carefully, is there ekakata there? It can be known little by little, more and more, not much at all in the beginning, until it's there, learning about the development of samatha and vipassana. But there must be panya, because samatha is calmness, tranquility. It's not concentrate on any object to be the moment of knowing nothing about that object and take it for calmness. It's wrong. That's why it begins to develop to be wholesome at different levels. And that's it. That moment it can show up as it's there. Concentrate on an object, depending on what is there together with it, right or wrong understanding. It can be wanting so much, craving for it, and take it for calmness, but it's not there as calmness at all, because no right understanding. So how can it be calm more than usual? It has to be with understanding. That's why learning about daily life at each moment is there, one-pointedness. Until the moment of trying to do something carefully, it shows up a little as needs concentration or focusing on that object. And when there's more understanding of the development of calmness or right understanding, it's there together with other cetasikas. It can be known. When the object appears clear, it's there for sure. Because if it's not there appearing, how can the object appear better or clearer than at the moment? That's it's taught in the book, but it's in daily life. That's why learn to understand what is taught in the book. It's there now, in life, through life, to understand even ekakata cetasika. And when it becomes like focusing or concentrating with right understanding, it is different from when it does not show up. And when it's wrong understanding, wrong practice, because someone thinks that practice has to be sitting or doing something in order not to think about anything else and so on. What about the understanding? Without understanding, it has to be wrong. And who knows that at that moment, there is attachment to the wrong practice, just wanting to have something appearing different from usual. That's all. That's why there can be the understanding of the reality as cetasika, little by little, that they are different. Because at moment of the object appears clear, concentration is there. That's why it is one factor of the development of panya. But when it's wrong, no understanding with it, but it appears as wrong samadhi, not samma samadhi, but mithya samadhi. So can it be known in daily life? We use the term ekakata cetasika, but it's there, one-pointedness, focusing.
I have learned to be careful with strong concentration, that it was not the right way, that it was not the right thing.
And
therefore there's some confusion about concentration.
Not just concentration, not only concentration, but understand the conditions or the factors of it's there. That's why concentration arises with each moment. It's not very exciting at all. It's just performing its function together with different levels, different kind of citta. And it's wrong understanding. Concentration is wrong too. People have understanding of what is there happening while thinking that one is doing samadhi and so on. What's the use of having such happenings without understanding?
Yeah, without understanding, I can see now that how important it is that the understanding is the basis of the basic. Our going first is first there.
And so if we think of concentrating in order to have understanding, it's bound to be wrong concentration.
Oh, that's it. That you have to concentrate in order to get understanding.
And it's very dangerous as well, because it just leads to more and more disturbance and cutting oneself off more and more from family, friends, normal daily activities, and it leads to more and more madness because it's wrong concentration with wrong understanding, not with the right understanding at all. Like just concentrating on a whiteboard more and more and more. And if someone says the more focus, the better, then one just, or that's all one wants to do, but no understanding at all. So it just leads to more and more disturbance and all sorts of crazy conditions.
I know it is not leading to calm. It is
The opposite.
it's opposite when it is on more and more and more and more but the term from moment to moment being there, it's also underlying.
The same wrong idea of thinking of that as a condition for the development of understanding.
Is that really all a wrong idea? Yeah.
Of course it is, because it's trying to make it happen. And
Yeah.
if understanding is not yet developed, then it means it's weak. And how can it be moment to moment understanding from the beginning? That's not the meaning of understanding. Understanding, as the Buddha spoke about it, means understanding true nature, characteristic of something that is appearing now. And that something could be a mental state, or it could be a sound, what is appearing to be heard by hearing consciousness, for example.
Or smelling,
smelling, or the smell that is smelled. So
also,
it's not a matter of choosing something to be the object of understanding. It's a matter of the conditions being there for accumulated understanding to arise and take some reality as its object, not a reality that is not one chosen by us for the understanding.
That's important.
Yeah.
Not a question of choosing. It's just coming.
It's
being there.
By conditions, yes.
By conditions.
And it does just come. And it may not be as rapid as we thought it should be initially. I was listening to, we were editing some recordings today, and I heard someone saying that description of understanding that, as explained by Ajahn, sound very passive. And this person thought that it should be something more active. Well, that's just a preconception based on, conventional notions of concentration and effort and so forth, or perhaps on a wrong view of a way of practice. But we have to put aside all those sorts of ideas and really consider the true meaning of what the Buddha said.
But against by anatta, not myself, to trying to describe how by self. I mean, it's depend on panya. It's anatta. Nobody can choose, right? We may speak like this, right? We can understand, but it can be again, oh, I want to try it more and try more, and that's kind of thinking also happens, which is wrong.
Do we have to look for concentration or samadhi or ekagata cetasika?
It's a question, I think. It's a question.
Yeah. Do we have to look for it, to find it? Or it's object of detachment? It has to be let go, otherwise there is clinging to it. When there's no understanding of it, even it's there, who knows? Just talk about it, but it's there now. In order to understand more about it, there must be the understanding of the truth that it's there now. We don't have to look for it, but there can be the understanding of the truth of it, as it is not other Citasika, it's only that which is one pointed on an object, no matter what degree, what level, with understanding or without understanding, it's there. That's why learning to understand the truth of each reality in daily life, there can be more understanding of Dhamma, because it just arises by conditions and then gone instantly, no matter what. But it's not just talking about it, to understand its characteristic, its nature when it's there. Gazing, staring on an object, it's there. See? Beginning to learn to understand it, it's there naturally, depending on what reality it arises with, unwholesome realities or wholesome realities, or just kiriya, vipaka, not wholesome or unwholesome. It's there as the other reality. It has to be known as other realities. All are objects of understanding in order to understand the truth. Not living in the dream world, not understanding the truth of what is there now. Even ekakata cetasika is there. And when it is a little stronger, that it can be known as it is, depending on whether it's wholesome or unwholesome, as the other realities, other cetasikas.
Yeah.
Just to be let go.
I don't know if you followed the main point at the start, Jyotika, but the main point was that when one looks for a reality like concentration, or has the idea of following concentration or effort or metta or any other reality, then that looking for it is driven by attachment, whereas the path is all about the letting go, the giving up of the clinging. So it is about the understanding with detachment to whatever is there naturally, the opposite of looking for or trying to concentrate, trying to make an effort, trying to have more goodness in one's life, trying to understand more. So there has to be the letting go with understanding. So if there is strong concentration now, okay, there can be understanding, no matter it's kusala or akusala. But when there is looking for the concentration or other reality, it's not the letting go, not the understanding.
May I ask, Sarah, if I am longing for listening to this audio,
Longing.
no, longing, when I can find the time, I
Yes.
make it, and it feels very good for me.
Yeah, but I think what you're actually talking about is the interest to listen because of the understanding of the benefit. So the wholesome chanda that sees the benefit, the interest, different from for example, the interest or the longing to go and watch a movie, for example, which it could be. So it can be kusala or akusala at this moment of longing or having an interest to hear what is said.
But more importantly is knowing the reality, not whether it's kusala or akusala. In other words, we shouldn't be concerned about having more kusala, having less akusala, that sort of thing, because that's not the development of the path. The path is about understanding the true nature of any reality that appears at the present moment. So whether it's attachment or whether it's wholesome chanda, for the purpose of developing the path is, in a sense, immaterial, but and in any event, no one can answer for you as to the nature of that moment or those moments of consciousness, and they may be mixed moments too, some mixed, alternating kusala and akusala. So we don't need to be too concerned about that, but to appreciate that it's understanding whatever's appearing that's important.
Do I understand you, Jonathan? When, in this case, when I have the longing to listen to the audio, that I would like to listen to the audio, it is better to know that that listening, that the longing is there than the actual listening. You mean? Not to be, I would do.
When there's a desire to have more kusala and to think we should be having kusala rather than akusala, is my listening motivated by kusala or by akusala? All these things are irrelevant. It is what it is. And
Yes.
it is what it is by accumulations, by accumulated tendencies. Can't be changed. Whatever has arisen is and fallen away was there and is gone already. And that's why we don't have to self-analyze in those ways.
No, but when you say it's better to know the reality, what is there?
What I said was the path taught by the Buddha is the understanding of any reality that is now appearing. That is the path. And it helps to keep that in mind.
And the longing now, no matter kusala or akusala, it's just a Dhamma. It's not your longing or my longing or Nina's longing. It's just a Dhamma that falls away instantly, of no significance, all gone. The longing to listen 5 minutes ago is completely gone. So it's just back to what appears now as Dhamma, not belonging to anyone at all. Is there any longing now?
Take it with me. I will take it with me.
We'd like to know what we should do or should not do, right? We'd like to be told
Maybe,
when this happens, you should do this, and when that happens, you should do that. But there's no such recipe in the Buddha's teaching.
I think I understand what Jodhika means. I mean, seeing the danger of akusala, because the Buddha spoke about the danger.
Well, he said that the person who has developed kusala to a fairly high degree understands the danger. And again, it's not that understanding that cannot, or that understanding happens when the time comes. So it's not the case that reflecting on the danger of akusala brings less akusala in real life, because that reflection, if it's just recitation of what's in the text, is not the actual understanding that comes from developed kusala. So I know it sounds like a chicken and egg situation, but it's a very subtle thing the Buddha taught. That he explained the danger of akusala, which we can grasp to a certain extent, but not really directly understand that yet.
I don't get the point quite. I find it difficult what you say.
So we take it with us.
So understanding the nature of any Dhamma, like the akusala longing now, for example, is different from trying not to have it because I don't want to have akusala. So it's
Okay.
just what appears just as it is. That's it. It's conditioned to be that way, but it doesn't belong to me. And there can be understanding that trying or wishing not to have it is just more akusala. But even that is conditioned.
Yeah.
Just
That's
understand whatever appears as conditioned, just the way it is, not self, not belonging to you or me or anyone. The wishing to have more kusala and less akusala is just more and more clinging, more and more wishing,
Yeah.
not
yes.
letting go at all of whatever appears now.
Yeah.
I think if we looked at the passages in the sutta that talk about the monk who sees danger in the slightest fault, then it would become clear that he's talking about the monk who has developed understanding to a high degree, not to the monk who is practicing to have more understanding and that thinks about the danger of agusala as part of that. So it is a subtle point, but yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you, Ajahn. Sarah, John.
Can you find what you are looking for?
It is not yet cooked.
Can anyone find what one is looking for?
One looks for more understanding, but that in itself is already clinging.
How can it be found when it's not there? No matter it is right understanding, attachment, concentration. When it's not there, no one can find it. There cannot be moment of knowing it, get it, understanding it. So it's there now. No matter what we are talking about, Dhamma is there, different ones. No one there at all. That's why what can be learned is only what is there now. Not just talk about it, but understand it that is there now as it is. One object appearing at a time, it means that there is one pointless cetasika arising with seeing that object. So it can see only one object. It's there. We don't know that it is one pointedness, but it's there. At moment of awareness of a reality, there is samadhi, one pointedness of that object. What can be known is only when it's there to be known. So now there is ekakata cetasika, so it can be known right now. But when one tries to know it, it's wrong again. It's not understanding the reality which arises and experiences one object because of that reality, cetasika, arising. One point on the object, one object at a time. So is there any time? This is not wrong at all. Beginning to understand what it's meant by ekakata, which has many levels and many degrees, according to whether it arises with what level of understanding or wrong understanding. That's why there is the term wrong samadhi, mithya samadhi in Tipitaka, because it's the real. When it's wrong, it's wrong. It cannot be right at all. But without understanding whether this moment is kusala citta or akusala citta, how can we know that it's strong understanding or akusala concentration? And only right understanding can understand that. That's why can ekakata cetasika or can samadhi understand anything?
No.
That's the truth. See, beginning to understand what is what as it is. Ekakata cetasika is only one point of this, no matter when it arises here or there, at any level. In a day, beginning to know it, but not in words, but at moment when it's there. Different realities appear one by one, little by little, from the understanding of it, from hearing, considering, of no one. If there is no understanding of the characteristic of any characteristic, it's there as I, because cling to the five khandhas, everything which arises. Is it there now? Ekakata cetasika. See, beginning to know it.
I think so.
So now there can be the answer for any question. Whether it is wrong samadhi or right samadhi, depending on citta at that moment, whether it is akusala or kusala, with right understanding or with no understanding or with wrong understanding. And there can be questions about realities, many questions by oneself, or by asking one another what ekata cetasika is not right. When it does not arise with kusala, and even it arises with kusala, depending on whether there is understanding with it or not. Without other cetasikas arising with it, it cannot be right or wrong. Or not right, not wrong. Vipaka, kusala, kiriya, and kusala, depending on the other cetasikas arising with it. And when there's no right understanding with it, can it be samma samadhi?
No.
It can be kusala samadhi when it arises with dana or kusala citta. But when it arises with right understanding, no matter it is bhavana samatha or vipassana, it is right understanding. To learn about it, whether it's right or wrong. We might take it for right samadhi, but without understanding, how can it be right?
Yeah.
I think we can finish here and maybe discuss anything further on concentration and samadhi and samatha vipassana next week, because these are all important topics, and the right path and the wrong path. I saw your note, Chanti, that you also appreciated all the discussion today, so that's great. So thank you very much, Ajahn, and everyone. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much.
you, Sanatan.
Adhikaptan Ajahn, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.